David, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, looking forward to this conversation. So you weren't a politician before. You're a bankruptcy attorney, like we mentioned. You were also an LA County sheriff in the 80s. So what in the world inspired you to get into politics now?
Wow, yes. Well, when I was attending law school in Connecticut, I was selected to work up in the state legislature there in Connecticut, and that was my first so-called introduction to politics. And but after that, I came back to California, and right away got into federal law, and I've been working out in the 25th district for the past 25 years. I've been saving people's homes from foreclosure. I've been saving businesses from shutting down, and I work directly with the banks and all the bank lenders, and it's just been a great career.
So that sounds like important work. So why are you looking to work as a politician if you can help people through that?
Well, I've seen the candidates and reviewed them and such, and to be quite frank, I believe I can do obviously a better job. I think the 25th district needs an extremely strong leader in that district, and I think we need to give the residents of that community hope for the future of what can be brought to the district.
So let's talk about some of those candidates. So obviously Katie Hill, curious to hear what you thought about her in her work. Also, the two sort of names that we know about are Assemblywoman Christy Smith, who has been endorsed by some big Democrats, and then on the Republican side, Steve Knight, although he isn't really talking to media as far as we know, was in that position before Katie Hill, so maybe he does have a chance. What do you think about those options?
Well, these are all fine people. In coming into politics, in the time that I have, I've gotten a quick lesson on how difficult it actually can be and what's involved. And again, I realize, and my family realizes, and all my friends and colleagues realize that I can certainly do the job, and I can do it quite well. I mean, my experience is in negotiations. I have a lot of foreign background, and quite frankly, I know I can do a better job.
What about just this being, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, it tends to be sort of an exclusive club, and there are people that break into being politicians on the Democrat or the Republican side, but it seems to be one of those things that if you don't have the establishment backing you, it can be difficult to break in.
Well, the Republican National Party has indeed contacted me. I grew up with Mike Antonovich. Mike Antonovich and I actually are fraternity brothers from Cal State Los Angeles. He was president of the fraternity.
They've contacted you, meaning what?
I've spoken with some of the representatives and such, and they're looking obviously at this race and seeing what's out there for them. Obviously, they would like to, as a Republican, they would certainly like to get the seat back, and by all means, I represent that, and I certainly represent the party.
So let's talk about the perceptions of the party, because there is some perception with President Trump in the seat. There's some xenophobic perceptions of the party. What do you make of that?
Well, he's our commander-in-chief, and everyone's going to have their individual opinions about each and every president. For instance, even though I'm a strong Republican, one of the issues, a big one for me, is the homeless. And President Trump has come out and said that each state should handle the homeless in their own way, in their own means. I would respectfully disagree with that. I believe that it's a national issue, and it can be solved in a national way. And so I bring a lot of experience and background from my law enforcement background and my federal law background to address that issue.
Some people might agree with you there as far as getting some federal help in this issue. A couple other issues I want to touch with you that are specific to this district. The Saga shooting obviously happened this past year, and a lot of people are talking about that. What do you think it's going to take to solve those sort of incidents?
Well, my wife, my family, and I attended that vigil, and it was heartbreaking. I do, as I said, there are solutions to this, one of which, quite frankly, could have been the fact that if the family might have been able to employ a gun safety lock that is actually licensed in California. There's a law in California a gun safety lock, that might have helped in the prevention. But there's all other additional solutions to the problem. It's just you have to have the courage to be able to bring them out. But can it be addressed? Absolutely.
What do you make about the fact that gun control seems to be a very partisan issue?
I call it gun safety. The gun control issue is a broad one. Everyone has their own opinion on that. My focus is on gun safety, and that can be controlled, and we can get a jump on that immediately.
All right, well, we've touched on a couple of issues. Really curious to see how this race plays out. Obviously, that's why we're trying to talk to as many candidates as possible, but thank you so much for making the time.
Well, thank you.
Pleasure.